this is a thing that we did a few weeks back, but haven't had a chance to talk about, and I think it's quite good and important to have a way to build plugins, and the ability to build plugins to the MDriven designer has been there for a very long time, but it has involved that you need to compile with Visual Studio, etc. So this is lowering the bar to get started with plugins, to see what use you could have of those. So I'm just gonna jump into showing on how to do that. Sounds fine? Yeah, switching on presentation. See my screen? Yeah, good. So starting the MDriven designer, and I should say this is the things I'm going to show are available from MDriven designer, because here we have the menus, but the plugins will run even if you start the MDriven designer from within Visual Studio. So just think about that. When you design a plugin, you're in MDriven designer, and then you can use it wherever. And to make this easy, we added a menu, plugins menu, and there's an option to open a new meta model for plugins. So this is actually reading from the installation, reading the model of the modeler. And reading the model of the modeler doesn't give you any diagrams, but it gives you the packages and all the classes. And then of course you could, if you wanted to create a diagram of this. So there's...
Hans, could I use this to reference an Eco 3 model?
Yeah, once you you could import an Eco3 model to absolutely. Once you have imported an Eco3 model, and it's in MDriven, you can use this strategy to create plugins for and massage that model.
It might give me a hybrid answer where I could slowly transition pieces. Have to do it in a logical way, but the Eco model compiles to a DLL.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And you. Okay. So what one can do, let's just cover that, is you can right click on a package and import, and then you can import from import from EcoSpace in assembly. And that would use the, what do you call it, the reflection API to try to discover MDriven classes and pull those out to a model. And that's pretty much what this open new meta model for plugins did. It takes the installation's own assembly and reverse it into this. So let's see if I can.
It's like this. Was it that movie Inception?
Yeah, it's a bit of an Inception.
Just reversing to yourself again and again.
Yeah, let's see. Where is that? I'm looking for. There's something weird with that diagram, so I'm gonna add a new diagram, class diagram. So this is the definition of a class in the meta model, and of course that will have something called, I think it's called features.
So this is the MDriven metaverse.
Yeah, so.
And then, you know, the Facebook guy, he kind of took that name from us.
So an attribute, let's see, and then you of course can check it like this, that attribute is a subclass of structural feature, and attribute is connected to the structural feature. It is owned by, no, feature is owned by a classifier. Yeah, so that's the way it goes. Classifier. And then if I go back to the diagram, now I see how these things are connected. So a classifier is the superclass of class, and a classifier has features, and the feature can be of two types: the behavioral features, which is typically methods, and the structural features, which affect the structure, such as the database and the overall availability of things like attributes, and of course association ends. They will also be, well, they point out a class that's a participant of this. So you can play around with this.
Association there too, below association end.
Sorry, say again.
Association below association end to the right there.
Yeah, this one. And so in one association has two association ends. Here it says many, but there's a restriction to only have two, of course. So normally the association is the line between two clauses, and the association ends are the things that has cardinality on it. So this is pretty cool. You can play around to get a feeling for the meta model of the model. But where the plugin thing really comes in is that since this is just another MDriven application now, you can do sort of define view models for that. So what you're going to use that for? Well, let's see. If we create one new view model 1 here and say that that's going to be based in class, and let's make it unrooted, and we call this my class seeker, and then I use the normal UI first strategy that uses the autoforms functionality to get a seeker autoform, so I don't have to go through the steps to do this manually, and I can get something very quickly just that tries to bring up a list of all the attributes available on class, and it has created all the seek expressions that ends in strings that seems fair to use on this object or this class. And I might want to clean it a bit, move stuff, and maybe move the name to top position in the column. So that would be a seeker that would work on searching classes. So let's just save this to see what we have achieved thus far. So this view model was called my class seeker. So I'm going to save this, and where I'm going to save it, well, I want to save it in the plugin directory, because that directory is sort of special. It's under this PC program data, and capable objects in this case should, yeah, we're not perfect. So, and the plugins folder. So I'm going to save it over here and just save as my new plugin, and that just saves the plugin as a modular file. Now the modular file has all the meta model, but reading plugins will ignore the meta model. It was just assumed that all the view models within the modular file adheres to the meta model. So what I can do now is sort of, well, I'll go back to a normal model like this, and to actually get the plugins loaded, I will need to either restart the MDriven designer or use this command here to reload plugins from disk. So using this will force the designer to reload the plugins, so I have access to them. And having that I can simply right click and somewhere and do plugin views, and then my new plugin is available as a menu, and my class seeker is available as an option in that menu. And then, well, it brings up the form with my view model, and I can search for the classes within my loaded model. So this is, well, it takes some getting used to, thinking in several steps, but it's pretty cool, because now we can do things that you might miss. How come there is no easy way to find everything that's one-to-one in the model? Why isn't there a tool for that? And before I said, well, you can easily find anything you want going on like extras and open up the model debugger on the model itself. So this is also addressing the meta model. And that's basically what happens, but on a more structured phase, because now you're using a view model to have this definition. So just now we got our head wrapped around that. We will go back and open up the my new plugin project, which is just like any other project, and say that it has a view model. I'm gonna put the view model over here so I easily can get to it, and in that view model I'm gonna sort of add a button that, well, it might want to show details of a specific class, and in order to have any details to show, I guess I need a new view model. So this is sort of one class, and that's from class, and I'm gonna say that that's rooted, and just to be quick, I'm gonna do a copy document autoform to have every attribute on here. going back to my class seeker, show details. Here I want to navigate to my new form. So one restriction with these plugin autoform or plugin ViewModels is that you can't really use actions, because actions is on a higher level in the abstraction with this webpack thing, and the MDriven designer isn't built like that. It was it precedes that, but there's a navigate operator on self VM, so I can use that. And yeah, here it says it's gonna take a root object and the name of the view model that you want to use. Okay, so the root object would be the selected in the current in it was called like that. And then I will have the name of the view model, which would be, let's see if I can see it here, my class, one class. So that's the instruction that would sort of bring up one class from the selected one. Navigate on this root object for one class. So that root object would be put into this view as root, and all the attributes would show over here. So let's go ahead and save that. It's still in the plugin folder, and I go here and do rather here and reload the plugins from disk. And I don't need to switch model, I just did that to prove a point. But being here, my new plugin, my class seeker, now has a button, and I can search for stuff, and I can filter stuff like nest, and pressing this one brings up my new form with everything on it from there. So and as I can design these as I want to with any precision that I need, I can get some help in doing a tool that suits my needs better. Since this one is rooted in class, we also have the effect that if I stand on anything here and actually point out a object and the plugin views, it shows up as this is available directly from this selected one in the UI. So I can go straight to this one without jumping via the searcher. And of course that's the case if I'm on a thing in here. What about this final state? Well, plugin views, one class. And as everything, and this is two-way, so if I were to change stuff here, and that's the runtime name, so I can't change that, but that's derived. But if I were to write a code comment and looking at this one, it has the code comment, and if I were to change it here, it's updated here. So, and that could be like a thing, and give me all the classes without code comments, give me a short list on those to help me to improve my documentation level, or give me an index. How good is my model documented? So it's possible to do anything that you can do with standard MDriven here. So when I think about it, you could do use the REST APIs as well to push information from the model to some other service, or pull information from some other service to do things. And so this is opens up a lot of possibilities, and it's rather new. And of course there will be things that are not available from the model level, but maybe should be available from the model level. Like if I'm on a diagram, render the full picture of the diagram. I don't think that's possible today because that goes another way, but it should be possible. Comments on this?
Hans, I'll just send you, if you bring up that wiki page that I sent you in Slack,
Yes.
you can show them, because this is what you can find in the wiki when it comes to like pre-made, a little bigger window maybe. This page is talks about how to use a debugger, and you have pre-made like how to rename a class in your model, adding and removing tag values, for example, and things like that. So you could say that this could be migrated into plugins. But I just want to point out that here you have some EAL and OCL to put into your plugins that uses this exact model, of course, the meta model. And quite a few things are put into tag values. So an understanding of how to work with those comes from this EAL and OCL code.
Yeah. So this was what I was alluding to when I talked to you, Emily, about only like yesterday or something. We talked about you had done some tag value changes of the model.
Yes. Yeah, and I tried to use the debugger, the model debugger, and this is a cool feature.
Yeah. So and the Inception part of this goes on forever, of course, because now you have these ViewModels. So if I were to copy this code, and that's one of the differences, that a ViewModel is called a span in the meta model, because that's where it started, like a span fetch, and we haven't changed the name. And if I'm here and doing open model debugger and doing action and pasting in that thing from the wiki and execute that, it finds that okay, you have two view models in this model, sure, and that has been maybe not. If this is empty, then we're gonna create new. Yeah. So does that mean that I've got
I don't remember
that
what
to
that
MVC?
does. Yeah, it says MVC on
so
everything.
it added this tag value too. So this is all a bit mind-boggling, but still cool. And of course, since everything is same as always, you can use the step functionality and to get a feel for what actually happens.
I like it. Sometimes I instantiate a methodology of doing something like using tags for storing class-specific items in, and then I decide, I don't want to go that way anymore. I want to, for some reason, make it an attribute with a derived override of some sort. So you go from one system to another, and you think, where on earth did I do? I must have loads of those tags in there. What are they all? So this would be ideal for kind of that type of auditing of elements of classes generically.
Yeah. So
Cool.
in C# and Visual Studio you have these fx cop etc. Sort of logic that runs through your code and reports things that could be improved, and you're not following the guideline this way and you're not following the guideline that way, and you can use plugins for that on model level, because one thing is when we set on associations we set business delete rule, because in the VPF UI it will bring up a warning if someone is trying to delete something and this is set to not decided. It will say, whoa, the developer hasn't decided what to do. You can go ahead, but I don't know. And that sort of pops up at the user site, and it would be much nicer if we could just loop through everything to find how many undecided do we have, or not decided do we have, and can we fix those once and for all.
Yeah, we had an example once that we were talking about, the diagrams and the colors, for example,
Yeah.
or the elements in the diagram. I mean, could you use this, for example, to loop through and color all non-persistent classes a certain color?
Yeah. Exactly. That would be a good example of something you would want to do with the debugger, or move that into a plugin. So to get that going, let's see, extras, open model debugger, and so the classes that are actually on a diagram is called placed class, all instances.
While you do that, can I point out another thing, Hans, to Derek? A not very much used feature that I use is to, you can just grab a SAML icon, and then you can link that to any property or tag value. So I have a special icon, usually in my models, that says non-persistent class, and then that is my indication of non-persistence and primary. There's a lot of things I want to add a little key if it's a reverse database, there's a key for the primary key. There is, if this is a special settings on the associations and this is deprecated, how the model is evolving over time. And that's another way to signal more things in your model.
So, and just to know how to actually apply a color, I'm gonna set a color on this one, and so that one was feature. Let's find that one, and where's the color set? It's up here, so colors should have that value to be yellow, and then I can just do color equals that value and execute that, and maybe it didn't like it.
Have you got the colon in there?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just see what it returns. So all the colors are set, so what the heck is going on? Let's see. Maybe it's the default color, so I was tricked, and I think that's maybe a tagged value.
It's been a little bit the other way around than you might expect for 10 years. But there haven't been any real pressure to change the naming.
Yeah. So where's the... Oh, maybe the default color is put on the class. So I need to go to the class and find the tagged value of the... And there we have it. So that's the value that I'm after. And if I set that on this one, then they are all yellow. So yeah, and what you alluded to there, Lars, was the things that we have on... Let's see if we can remember those. The tag extensions. So the tag extensions are pretty cool, and there are some default ones, I think. For symbols, you can just ensure the default ones, and these are just sort of pieces
there it is.
of sound.
My non-persistent icon.
Yeah.
I apparently put that in the default too.
Yeah.
All right.
So these are icons that now are available to use, and then you can do a new extension and add a tag type to that extension. And what's the target of the tag type? It's going to be on class, I say, and symbol when not empty. It's gonna have the transient class, and
and I'm not sure you...
there's something you're gonna do an expression to see if it's... I'm gonna need to get back to exact... There's a video on how to do this, but you do it once and then you're happy, and then you just move along. So
I think it's in the base app. I think this is defined, so you can have a look.
yeah,
I think I've added more ones for the downloadable model from the wiki called base app. I think I've used it there.
so the thing is that once you have defined a tag extension, the name of the extension pops up in the type that it's assigned to, and then you can sort of choose one of the values that you have designed. That's the way it's done.
Or if you add it for an existing one, then it won't show up as a new one. It will just use the existing one. So you can add to the existing features. I have that sometimes to association ends and things like... I think I have one model where I can put a warning sign on the association, and it's like, hey, don't navigate here. It's a million things in the other end.
This is not so. And symbol when not empty. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. Well, I hoped it should.
I think you need to change diagram. I don't think it refreshes immediately.
Well, not sure what's up with that. I think it works, but I think we haven't read the specification on how to make it trigger. Anyways, so there's full access to the meta information on the model itself. So to do things to, sky's the limit.
One of the interesting things you brought up there, Hans, is actually this the improvement of quality. You could make a few view models that's editable, like a list, and then you could step through and comment en masse, and you could also have just show the ones that haven't been dealt with yet. That would be a way to work on your model from different perspectives and find problems, or I want camel case in all cases, so they could be just a short list. This is a non-camel case things, for example.
Yeah. So there's a class called model element, which is base class for a lot of stuff. Model element. And yeah, so that has a runtime name, and maybe I want to collect everything that starts with a non-capital too. Maybe that's a thing I have in my style guide, that everything should be capitalized, first letter. And then you would sort of grab the substring, the first character, and then you would compare that to the first character, but uppercase, and if they're different you would keep it, because then it's diverging from so substring, is it like this? Let's just see. I'm gonna just have a criteria here to runtime name, runtime name. So that's the substring of all, and if that isn't the same as this, it would be an offender. So all of these have bad names, and of course then I could put that in a simple view model and have it I can just take model element here and call this offenders, and gonna put in a list of stuff where the list is defined by that, and I'm gonna so this one is actually a model element, and gonna put in the runtime name and remove the default column, delete column, like that. And now we save everything and we plugins, reload from disk. So when I go here and do plugin views, offenders, I immediately see my offending things and can address them. So that's pretty quick to get a grasp of on stuff.
And then here you would put an attribute to the right, so you can just edit right away.
Yeah. So going from this,
you don't need to do it, I guess. But okay.
to a self, to a other thing, and then you could maybe you would want to see what type of object it is, and then you could open that and do things with that. Yeah, pretty cool. I think it's cool. When I did this, this is some serious Mind-boggling stuff. String.
It's nice just to have a visual of the metadata. I mean, you've got a kind of a mental image of it built up
Yeah.
by, you know, constantly going back and working out what's derived from what and what the structural features are and everything. But it's good to have it as a visual as well, just to have it that way. It's nice.
So saving that, what was that being used? Okay, it's saved 2 times. And the plugins reload from disk and bring up this one, offenders. As I point to this, I can see this is an attribute association, and yeah. And of course, as I would fix these in my model, now I don't want to fix it because that's a lot of legacy, and that would affect a lot of stuff. But when I fix it, this list would be reduced. So having this list down to just a few things would be good. Right, cool. We covered a lot of ground, I think. As a simple thing, if everything is of the same material, just folding back the ability to transform information on the tool that transforms information itself. So that's always nice when you get a bit of reuse. Like a snake eating its tail.
I'm trying to think of other uses and other things related to this.
I was wondering if you would use it maybe to import a third-party tool and to be able to reference that third-party tool in your model as opposed to, in UML as opposed to in your code.
Yeah. Different ways to address that. Depends on what level you want to attack it, but suppose that you have a lot of JSON. Nowadays there's really easy to get a large JSON response from some site, and what you're gonna do with that? Well, you know that you're gonna massage it. So example of JSON data. So you know you're gonna do something. Let's see if we have something a bit more complex like this. Whoa, I need to do a model that can hold this information. Wouldn't it be cool if you just right click and said, if you click on a existing class that is, so you have something to do a relation from, and do add attributes, association, and classes from clipboard JSON or XML. Yeah, okay. So this is what it would take to represent this information. So that's a quick way to really move definition from all these REST services that you encounter on day-to-day basis to pull them in so that you can represent them easily in your model. So that's one way. Another way...
And then there's, of course, these functions for taking JSON and starting with a root object. So you just use that and it fits straight onto that class structure that just created.
Yeah, and then the important things are the association names and the attribute names. And these are the ones that have been, so ID, type, batters, and etc. So they should match exactly. And I use this all the time when addressing complex third-party APIs. Another way to get hold of a legacy system is to sort of import or reverse engineer the database. And where do we have that? Functions, reverse database to model. And then you can sort of connect to you bring up a UI and give it a connection string, and then it loops through the tables and looks for foreign keys and primary keys and imagines a model that matches that database. And then you can start from there to add access information in a model-driven way with OCL and OCLPS instead of SQL. And of course do all the things that you can do with MDriven, like exposing it to REST APIs and such. But so that's the two central ways. And if you have an old bold or eco system, you could import the assembly and reverse engineer the assembly with this import, the eco package. No, the eco space in assembly. Cool.
Yeah, we're only 8 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Anything? Any questions? And
So Hans, you need the little story for.
Yeah, that would be great if I could have that in. Well, at least before before the 16th, but preferably a bit a week. Give me a week ahead.
So probably by about this time next week.
Yeah, that would be super. Yeah. Maybe we should call it a day. And thank you everyone for showing up. And I'll put up this video to revisit, and for those that couldn't make it tonight. So.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Hans.
Bye.
See you next time.
Yeah.